Tesfaye Oldemikhail Haftu is 68 years old and is amongst the tens of thousands of IDPs sheltered in Sawakari IDP camp. He is from Rawian in Kafta Hamura of western Tigray. Him and his family initially fled the area in November of 2020 after Fano, an irregular armed group from the Amhara region, started to kill, torture and arbitrarily detain Tigrayans. Him and his family had managed to make it as far as Adgoshu when Ethiopian forces would catch up with him and forcibly return him to Humera.
Fano entered Humera on November 10th of last year. They were beating, torturing, and detaining Tigrayans. We ran away to Adgoshu, where Ethiopian National Defense Forces caught up with us. They beat us and returned us back. Soon after we arrived to Rawian, the Fano started to beat and torture us. They would use sticks with rough edges on our neck to press us against the floor. They would take our property, our money. They would call us junta, weed, TPLF cancer, and more. And we couldn't do anything.
After Ethiopian forces returned him to Rawian, Tesfaye says he wasn't able to leave for close to a year. For all that period, he tells us there was no regular administration and the Fano would beat, kill or steal from Tigrayans as they wished.
They did as they pleased. They stole what they wanted. If one member of the Fano didn't so much as like how he would look at him, he would just take you to a valley and kill you. They have no mercy, and there was no one to hold them accountable. We just prayed that we do not fall at their hand.
Tesfaye says a year later, on November 25, Tigrayans in the community were called to a meeting. After they all gathered, the Amhara forces would arrest them. The following day, they were loaded onto trucks and taken to Takaza River east of Rawian.
They killed many on our way to Takaza. They also took everything they could find on us. The worst part was that they wouldn't allow us to bury the bodies. Many women, priests, and children were beaten by dogs and hyenas.
After managing to cross the Takaza River, Tesfaye and his neighbors would go to the Debit. Once they arrived, they were divided into two groups. One would stay in the IDP camp in the Debit, and the other group that included Tesfaye himself would go to Hizat. Just a few months later, a deadly airstrike by Ethiopian forces would take the lives of dozens of IDPs. Tesfaye, due to the communications blackout, cannot communicate with his neighbors, but wonders about their well-being.
We stayed in the IDP camp in Dedebit for 7 days before they divided us into two. We were taken to Hizat. The rest stayed there, and they were there when the airstrike took place later.
Tesfaye would stay in the IDP camp in Hizat for 4 months. For much of that time, Tesfaye says there was very little to eat.
In Hizat, we stayed in a camp built for Eritrean soldiers. I stayed there for 4 months. We hadn't brought anything with us from home, and there wasn't enough food there. When we could no longer take the hunger, we decided to come to Maqala. We arrived here on March 27th of 2020.
After his long and gruesome travel to Maqala, Tesfaye is still yet to access to most items like food or medication.
Back home I was healthy. In Hizat, we were trying to build a shelter, and a piece of wood fell on my eye. My vision is now blurry. If I had access to medication, I think I would have been okay, but I don't. They can only give me droplets, and they are not of much help.
The rainy season, according to Tesfaye, is likely to bring its more trouble. The tents housing the IDPs at the camp are fragile and are sure to collapse soon.
It's clay soil beneath us. When it rains and the wind can easily blow away the plastic rooms. This is a big problem. These plastic rooms were built to house human beings. They are not strong enough. They have already started to collapse. The world has known what is unfolding in Tigray, but what I can't understand is why they would do anything. We've been crying for help for 2 years now, and there's no one to help us.
For much of the conflict, IDPs like Tesfai, who were forcibly removed from their homes in western Tigray, have seen the brunt of the humanitarian crisis. And while the world has many times overexpressed concern about the humanitarian situation, and especially the ethnic cleansing campaign in western Tigray, it is yet to take any decisive action to bring it to an end and require that international humanitarian is respected.